Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard Magazine, reporting to you here today from the annual conference of the California Association of Wine Grape Growers here, held in beautiful Sonoma. I'm here with Jay Vroom, a former CEO from CropLife America. He spent many countless years lobbying and protecting the ag industry here from losing critical crop protection materials, but even in his retirement, it continues. And he was one of the speakers featured today talking about the whole situation and controversy over glyphosate and chlorpyrifos and other crop protection tools that we have risk of losing here. And I wanted to talk to you specifically about what kind of impact it would have for us, the agricultural industry, to lose a critical tool such as glyphosate. We really don't have many alternatives. We've relied on it heavily, and growers have used it safely, according to the label, and scientifically it's shown to not cause cancer. It's shown to be safe time and time again, yet the public is looking at it from an emotional or other kind of standpoint. So can you give us a little bit about what you talked about today?
Yeah, so it's clear that the public has a right to know. Unfortunately, we've done a great job in agriculture with our science, right? The hard sciences of inventing newer, better crop protection tools, improving plant varieties, genetic modification of some crops, better nutrient delivery, precision agriculture, automation of equipment. We haven't done such a good job with the science of communication to the public. And so we need to get that into our toolbox and remember that just like all the other sciences that have to be applied every day, we need to be communicating every day. And so I think that's a large part of the answer. Also having messages that people can understand. So it's easy to understand the attacks on agriculture and ag technology and science because it's like, boo, fear, be worried. And it's not as easy to give the other side of that story, which is, you have a right to know, we understand concern, and these are the reasons why these technologies are not only safe, but they're really important, and in some cases, maybe not an individual product, but the whole range of technologies, they are essential for the way we farm. And that's true for conventional and biodiversity farming, but also for organic, right? Organic farmers need pest control products. Organic farmers use pesticides, and that's a fact. Most people don't know that, right? Yeah. So to get that conversation started in a way that engages people as opposed to just broadcasting messages that may do no good or may actually create harm because we're not communicating in the right ways. So the rest of the story is you look at the absolute facts, not about the specific technologies, but the arc of productivity per unit of whatever amount of land, we call it an acre. The productivity for all types of farming, organic, conventional, biodynamic, whatever it is going up over time, almost year on year, every year. Sometimes weather changes that a little bit, because we have innovation and science and smarter ways to do things. And not only are we creating more food, fiber, and renewable fuels, but we're benefiting the environment with those technologies. And so glyphosate is an example of something that not only helps farmers produce more at a lower cost, but do so in a way that reduces soil erosion, reduces the runoff of other things off of the land that can get into surface waters or soak into the groundwater. These are things that we just haven't bothered to figure out how to communicate, and we need to do that now for the benefit of consumers who have a right to know and I'm glad want to know.
So tell me, glyphosate, for example, what kind of impact would that have for California agriculture or for, across the nation, for that matter? What kind of impact would it have on the growers and then resultingly on consumers for us to lose that critical product?
Right. So first of all, a mistake of us in agriculture would be to answer that question historically as, oh, well, the sky is going to fall. And we've done that a few times, and then everybody gets up the next morning and they look up and the sky's still up there, right? So it's about putting it into context. So, glyphosate is about effective control of weeds, which for some crops can completely eliminate all yield of a particular crop if the weeds take over. And also, weeds tend to build up over time, year on year. So it has to be looked at multi-years. But the other thing is that science has not been able to help discover brand new modes of action, like something that would work as well as glyphosate, but be able to do it in a completely new way. And so Mother Nature tends to have resistance development. And so we need, especially to preserve glyphosate and all the other modes of action, herbicides, because farmers have to rotate these in order to really be effective at managing those weed populations year on year. So weed threat, for some crops is much more serious than others, and mechanical control of weeds in some crops is more feasible than others, even though there are always negative consequences to mechanical versus the appropriate use of herbicides. One of which is carbon emissions, right? So if you're using mechanical control, you're burning more fossil fuels, right? And that creates more carbon emissions. If you're reducing tillage of the soil, which you can do using herbicides like glyphosate, you're allowing the plants to thrive in the soil and sequester carbon that they've taken in and manufactured into the soil and prevent it from being emitted into the atmosphere. So there are lots and lots of benefits to the environment writ large that we've never slowed down to bother to explain to consumers. For a long time, consumers didn't know to be concerned about those questions. They do now, and we owe it to consumers to be able to tell that story.
I guess we'll find out in the near future what ends up happening.
Right.
Obviously, the sun still comes up the
Right.
next day,
Sky's
so
still up there, right?
we need to be positive.
Yes.
And farmers are very innovative, but I feel like there comes a time when we need to stand up and tell people what's right.
But we need to stand up in a way that's not totally defensive, particularly with consumers who are going to come at us being neutral. I mean, they may come to us because they've been scared by some other message from some other organization, but we shouldn't be defensive about that. We should listen to their concerns and then provide them the information that they maybe have never thought about, right? Like those environmental benefits of farming technology. So I'm really optimistic that out of adversity comes other opportunities and benefits, and I think that's very much the place we are at now, where you could look at it and say, oh, this is dire straits, we're near the end. I don't think so. I think being tested like this by allegations from court litigation and activist accusations and maybe mass media that only wants to scare people is also an opportunity for us to get on with the job that we have to do.
Well, thank you, Jay, especially for the positive outlook there.
Sure. My pleasure.
You heard it here today. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.